Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Um, Having said that, I will turn it over to Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor and Council wish to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located with Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of Salt River First Nation, Smith Landing First Nation, and the Indigenous Métis peoples of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship of their sacred lands throughout the generations, and we honor your knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We are mindful that colonization has not been kind, and we respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. There is no declaration of financial interest, and we do have a delegation. So if you want to come up and maybe just sit in this chair where there's a microphone, and when you speak, just turn the microphone on for Patricia Heat. SAO?
Patricia's letter to council is on the third page of the community services package for reference.
Do you want me to read it out, or?
Has everyone read the document? Is everyone aware of the material? Maybe just speak your case.
Okay. My front and back lawns are well maintained. Like, this is only my back lawn. I'm trying to keep it as eco-friendly as possible. It's a natural lawn, okay? You can barely see it from the main street, but because Byla lives next door, I don't think he really understands like what the ecological impacts are of what I'm trying to do on my own property. So, like in my letter, right? My front lawn is well maintained. It's against my own wishes as a property owner in the north. Right. The impact of unnatural, pesticide-ridden, overly manicured, and less than 6 inches gentrified lawns. The environmental impact of modern lawns are many. Loss of habitat for diminishing pollinators, extremely wasteful water usage, contaminated runoff, carrying pesticides and fertilizers into the Slave River, reduced soil quality while increasing soil erosion, and much more. As global temperatures continue to rise and droughts become more common, the demands of grass lawns are unsustainable. Okay. I've had local elders come and check my back lawn for fire safety issues. When I talked to Nicholas Carberry, that was one of the main things he brought up. I have a sprinkler back there. It's well watered. I do deep watering when we haven't had rain. I just want to appeal against this, because even in your statement for the nations, you're acknowledging the history of colonialism up here, right? If elders are important enough for federal governments, municipal governments, and territorial governments to listen to when it comes to funding or environmental concerns, I'm not sure why they're not being listened to when it comes to everyday matters within our local community. McNabb had asked me if I could, provide written statements from these elders that came and checked my property. Their response was they don't want to be a target for bylaw. So I'm not willing to put their names forward because I want to respect their wishes. But native lawns are essential to promoting biodiversity, help curb the impacts of climate change, aid pollinators who have evolved thousands of years specifically with our local flora, right? I don't even know why I got the notice to comply, honestly, right? My front and side lawns are well within the 6 inches mandated by the town of Fort Smith. So, do you want me to keep reading the letter?
Thank you. So what we do here is we hear you and we'll take and read what you have written and what the bylaw's written, and then we can take it and discuss it. We can't make a decision on this right at this moment, but this is your opportunity to tell us why, right? And so if you feel that you've fulfilled that and you've got enough information to us to make our decision and an informed decision on that, then that's all you're here for to do tonight. Okay? You can turn your mic back on.
So within the bylaw 855, with the unsightly land specific to the 6 inches of lawns, like, where is it? It says detriment to surrounding properties and the immediate neighborhood generally, characterized by visual evidence of lack of general maintenance and upkeep. You know, like, I'm trying to have something that I'm proud of within my own property and still play nice with the town and trying to keep it gentrified looking, right? It's healthy. I've got birds, I've got bees, I've got bugs, you know, like the ultimate goal is chickens and, you know, something that we need to think about from a food security standpoint in the future. Like, how am I going to raise chickens on mowed dandelion lawns? It's just not going to work. And food security is something that is, you know, like really important up here. So that's all I'm saying, right? I'm trying to meet you guys halfway, but my back lawn, I don't think should be any concern of Town of Fort Smith bylaw, right? The only one who can see it is bylaw next door. So, like, I live at 422 Calder. I'm sure you've all driven past it, right?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have anything else to say?
My hope is, like, we need to think about the future impacts of what these lawns are going to be. You know, like, I read when you guys were talking to NTPC about how they're still using diesel for fuel because there's less water going through the Tolson. Like, what's the long-term plan for that? We're just going to keep watering our lawns to make it look beautiful in question mark, you know, or quotations. Like, to me, that's not beautiful. Like, you don't see anything on those lawns, right? Like, they're not helping the environment at all, and you're pumping pesticides into the soil, right? We're so close to the Slave River. Just what is the long-term plan for this 6-inch lawn cutting bylaw, right?
Thank you for your delegation, and we'll put this under advisement, and then we'll have a follow-up. Councillor Crevette?
Just like to thank Patricia for bringing this forward. It's not an issue that's unique to Fort Smith, to be quite honest. Many of the cities have now had people challenging the lawn type concept where there has been a push from many ecological and environmental advocates of the benefits of having a natural lawn for, as Ms. Heaton has pointed out, pollination. Everybody's talking about the decline of the pollinators across the globe and the long-term impacts that's going to have on food production and everything else. I think this is actually an opportunity for us to have a discussion about the acceptability of natural lawns and gardens within our urban environment, and how do we take that into account when we're making decisions in regards to this appeal in particular. So I think this is something that we really should have a fairly serious discussion about. and look at what some of the other large, not large, but other communities across Canada. Like I've read at least every 6 months, you'll read an article where somebody is having issues where somebody down the block has complained about them letting their lawn, their yard grow naturally and saying, oh, it's an eyesore. But you look at it and it's full of bees and birds and other critters. And so, again, we do need to have a serious discussion about this. So I thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Cravette. Councillor Tucky?
I totally agree with what Councillor Couvert just discussed. In fact, on CTV News about 2 weeks ago in Ottawa, they've actually planted gardens where they're planting vegetables and stuff, but they've warned that nobody can eat them because they're using pesticides. However, throughout the city, they've planted naturalistic vegetation that is native to Ottawa and surrounding areas and stuff. And other cities are following the same thing. And I totally agree with you. This is something that we do have to examine, I believe. And I don't think Ms. Eaton's comments on her letter are too far off the mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none then, thank you. All right, go for, yeah.
Thank you, Councillors Couvret and Tucky. Like, I understand the reasoning for this bylaw, like unsightly lands, garbage built up, stuff like that, but if my intent is specifically for a naturalized Indigenous back lawn, like I don't have a problem filling out paperwork for that, you know what I mean? Or having it registered as a lawn like that, if that's within the parameters of what bylaw requires. But I just, like he could have come and talked to me about it. You know what I mean? Instead of just receiving that in the mail. And I like Carberry. Like, he's a nice guy and he's got a tough job. You know what I mean? But if I could have had the opportunity to explain it, what the intent of that lawn was prior to coming here and getting flustered, but before you guys, like, I would have appreciated that, because maybe it didn't need to come here. So thank you, Councillors Tucky and Couvret. And they're both right. There's tons of data out there about the necessity of these natural lawns and yards. Like Portugal, they just recently released a report where just having rooftop gardens mandatory in new buildings has like decreased the temperature within the city 2 degrees Celsius. And that's a huge change within that local environment. So I'm just hoping that we can work together to head towards the same sustainable future that Fort Smith desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your delegation. Is there any other questions? Then we'll thank you for coming in and bringing this to us, and we'll follow up on our end, and I'm sure someone will be getting back to you. Thank you. Thank you. So moving on the agenda, I need someone to move the agenda, please.
I move the agenda be adopted as presented.
Oh, second.
Perfect. So discussion. There is some amendments that are to be made to the agenda under other business. So number 8, add to agenda items. Number 1 is add meeting dates in September to agenda. Number 2 is add in camera to agenda. Number 3 is add HR committee additional member Dana Ferguson to agenda. Number 4, set dates for Hay River Committee director interviews. I mean, HR. I saw the letters HR. Sorry. Yeah. This appeal? This one that just happened? A public one. Maybe we should ask for more information for that about like what other cities are doing. Or okay, so number 5 is to add, well, before the in camera, then before the in camera, add a public meet discussion regarding the appeal for bylaw 855, Patricia Heaton. So those are 5 amended items to the agenda. Do you approve those amended items? Councillor Tucky.
Councillor Ferguson, yes, I do.
Councillor Crevette, do you approve those amended items? Oh, sorry, Councillor Kroll. Do you approve those?
I agree to the amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion or additions? Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Yes.
Agenda's going. So in your package, as always, they were the minutes from July 16th meeting from the community services. We had our visions and values, our community service master plan, and our economic development plan. Is there any business from the minutes from July 16th? Councillor Crevette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I guess it's under the review of the July 16th minutes. Item 6 was advisory board. There was a request put out by council for the for administration to circulate a letter from the Economic Development Advisory Board with their recommendations on the business licensing bylaw. And I'm hoping that we can follow up on having that particular recommendation brought, forwarded to council for their consideration. And then I guess under, I'll bring it up on it's different areas. Yes, that is it for review.
Any other business from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the director reports. Those are in your package. Under the first, the community service director report. Is there any questions about that one? Okay, then on the second report, the Canada Day's 2024 funding report. Any questions about that funding report? Okay, and then on the Community Tourism Coordinator 2024-2025 funding proposal, Councillor Crevette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I guess with that one, it was interesting to read through it. Here we're talking about the Community Tourism Coordinator. I believe this is in regards to funding and a position being available through ITI funding to hire somebody to work on behalf of the community for tourism coordination. I guess my first question did the town, and I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to do adequate research to answer this myself, but was there funding provided to the town in 2023-2024 from ITI for the tourism coordinator program? And then the second part of this is if there was funding provided, when would council be seeing a report on what activity was coordinated through this position. And the second part of my inquiry on this, if this is our first time sort of accessing this funding, I just hope that we have spoken to the other local governments, Chamber of Commerce and groups like that to ensure they're fully supportive of the town taking on this initiative. Somebody needs to do it, and if the town is felt to be a good vehicle for that, I say full guns, go ahead, let's do it. Just make sure that we do have support from the other local governments, the Indigenous governments of the community, and it would be good to see the Chamber sort of tie into this as well as part of their desire to see business growth in our community.
Thank you. Good questions. SAO.
As I'll have to look into the 2023, 2024. From what I understand, the position was empty. We did get some money, but I think the position was empty for most of the year, and then we just reapplied for it. And this helps support our economic development and tourism coordinators combined position. It provides $50,000 a year towards that position. But I will get back to you. I'll talk to the Director of Community Affairs and see if she has any reporting or any information I can bring back.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll?
I was just wondering how this would actually kind of fit in with the organizational review that the tender closed on and how that might tie in.
SAO?
Could you clarify that a little bit more for me, Diana, or Councillor Kroll?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Tracy.
She just wants clarification of the question, please.
I was just wondering how an additional person, I know it's third-party funded, how that would flow in with the how we've requested the organizational review and how they would fit in with the org chart, and if that is something that we should maybe look at incorporating in the future, or and also the status of the operational review tender.
SAO?
The economic development position is already an existing position within our org chart. This supports that position. I believe Councillor or Director of Community Services presented on that one a while back about how we've combined that into that position by utilizing that funding. And the tender closed yesterday, and I haven't yet had a chance to do an additional put together, but that was one of the things I meant to ask is for a council member to join me on the review committee for that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the Community Tourism Coordinator proposal? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to advisory boards. If I can have someone move the recommendation.
I move that Gail Hartop be reappointed to the Community Services Advisory Board for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in, oh, sorry, Councillor Kissinger?
So with just one brought forward, does that mean there was no other applications?
SAO? Was,
Not to my aware, or not that I'm aware of.
It's just a reappointment because her term was ending.
Councillor Kissinger?
Yes, it's a reappointment, but was there other people interested also? Or are we just redirecting people every soon as their term comes up? Or are we? recruiting new membership or new people.
Counselor Tucky?
I'm just assuming that they would open that up to discussion in their meeting and people would volunteer their names. And if not, then if parties interested in resuming that position, maybe they would go for an extension rather than if nobody put their name forward.
Counselor Cravette?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I do recall, could be several months ago, that the town did post calls for interest for all our advisory boards. And I know both the Sustainable Development and Economic Development Board still has vacancies. And I believe there may have been 1 or 2 vacancies on the Community Services Board. So yes, there are. In response to Councillor Pissinger, there was a call. I can't say how recently, but there
My
was
question is-
within the last few months.
Counselor Pissinger?
Yes, my question was this the only application we received that we're considering because it's the only one? That's my question. I thought that.
Counselor Kroll?
As the council representative on this advisory board, we are down, I believe, 2 members, and there were no other applications to the best of my knowledge from the last 2 times that we've sent the request out.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Kroll, you still have your hand up? Okay, all right. Seeing no other questions, all in favor? Okay, then the motion is carried.
Yes.
There is no new bylaw, policy, or review or development right now. Administration, there's nothing under administration. We have under other business. Did you? Oh, okay. Oh, I thought I made it on the backer. Those were all the amendments. Okay. So the only thing not on the backer is, I guess, we'll start with the appeal for the Patricia Heaton. Open for discussion on that appeal. Who would like to go first? Councillor Cravette?
Yeah. Definitely not prepared to make any decision or, well, might be a recommendation after I finish my rambling, but I think this is an issue, and I don't know whether it may or may not be addressed in our community plan and zoning bylaw review. And it's not only unique to this particular appeal. As I said during my comments during the delegation, this is happening across Canada where community governments are being asked by various appealants and defendants about how to deal with a natural environmental movement to move away from, as Ms. Heaton described it, the manicured gentrification of properties. I think this is something that really does need some further discussion. We should be looking at possibly asking our bylaw people to look at what amendments other communities have done to their bylaws to address unsightly premises. I know this part of the concerns addressed by Protective Services is the potential for this type of environment to be conducive to or not so conducive to fire smarting of properties as well. So there are two sides of this argument that really need to be taken into serious consideration before we say yes or no to this appeal. And with that, I think we should be asking for additional information, like what have other communities done? What are acceptable standards? Like, do we want 10 6-foot high grass fields in people's backyard that the first spark that hits it, it's going to explode like a tinderbox? Like, how do we provide both our obligations to be environmentally sensitive to people's needs and desires, and the way that our environment is evolving due to climate change and our interference with natural growth of environments, versus protecting residents and neighborhoods from potential fire hazards and other risks that could be involved with. Like, for example, there was a thing last night on the CTV News where they were talking about these massive wildfires that are consuming Greece and the outskirts of Athens. And part of that is from people having abandoned their acreages, or not have gone away from agriculture. They're no longer doing agriculture on their lands. So the lands are now becoming overgrown and have exacerbated the wildfire situation that they're facing right now. So there's pros and cons to letting these natural environments go unchecked. So I really think we need to have that discussion, but we do need a hell of a lot more information at our disposal before we make that decision.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you. Councillor Couvret covered both items that I was going to bring up, mainly the wildfire item. I do agree with some part about the ecological and aspect of this, but I'm going to be emailing everybody. It's a Fire Smart Canada document that's been done. It's called Blazing the Trail, Celebrating Indigenous Fire Stewardship, which recognizes contributions to the wildfire prevention of Indigenous communities in Canada. And it has some really good information that we can use to bring forward to make sure that we're incorporating all different things and taking into account TRC.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tuckey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can totally agree with everything that Councillor Couvret has stated thus far. When I read this letter, and the letter that was sent to the information that was sent from the bylaw officer to council, stating his reasons, kind of piqued my interest. So I decided I'll go look for 422 Calder Avenue. I had a great deal of difficulty. I did not find 422. And somewhere I found a lot of infractions because of all of a sudden, a house that should be 218 down to 214, there were no numbers. The next number I saw was 212, which was the next block, but there wasn't enough houses on the previous block for those missing numbers. So I decided, well, I'm going to go around the block. I went around the block, and I was kind of bewildered because basically what I saw in all the yards, and the town is responsible from the curbside to the property of our community members. We're responsible for cleaning out the ditches and stuff. And to my surprise, I saw very little difference between what I saw in the yards and what I saw on our side. And so why are we saying to this woman what she's doing is wrong when everybody else is doing it, including the town of Fort Smith? Because between the curb and the fence, people's property lines, there's young trees growing up just like they are in the yards and stuff. This is something we really have to look at. If we can't do what we expect our community to do? Why are we putting the expectations on the community to do what we can't do ourselves? Furthermore, some of the reasoning in the bylaw officers doesn't make sense. Further public health advantage to maintaining short lawns directly around homes is the reduction of pests, including mice and other rodents such, which will thrive and become more likely to enter homes. Well, that's the homeowner's decision. If they want mice in their house, that's up to them. If they want to take that chance. Why are we putting that on? Why are we looking for stuff? If we're going to look for stuff that's going to support why you're doing what you're doing. I think one of the other thing to recall about vegetation when it comes to fire smarting is that you get rid of the dry, dead stuff. That's the stuff that's highly ignitionable. Healthy vegetation burns very slow. So keeping that in mind, there's just, I feel that there's more out there that supports this kind of Indigenous caretaking of the property than what is being presented by our bylaw officer at this moment. And I guess you know where I'm going as far as the vote's concerned. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Is it Councillor Kroll, do you still have your hand up? Councillor Cravette?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to propose a motion. I propose that a motion that administration provide us a briefing note on updates to bylaws in other jurisdictions that have addressed this issue and report back to council with recommendations to possible bylaw updates or further action.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, I've never really thought of it till this point here, till it was brought up. But now that it's brought up, you know, I think there's a way that we could actually get both out of it. I think it's a very interesting thing to take a look at, and providing, like, if someone wants that, you know, there's different things that they could add in there. They could add a small pool, a fountain, flowers. You see that down south all the time. So why can we not have that here? They got a hose in the back. They're going to have to water the flowers, so everything's going to get watered. I mean, I'm really not into this. Everyone has to have the same thing. Just, things are different. If they're paying for their taxes, that's they want, then give it to them. Then let them have it. And you know, at least it falls into fire smart thing in that they're going to look after it. They're just not going to grow it and grow it. I'm willing to give this a shot. Yes, maybe it's a new direction we should be looking at. And like someone brought up, our rules in there sometimes is, like I said before, time after time, it gets in people's faces too much. Like, they're paying their rent, they're doing their house. Like, what more do you want them to do? But, you know, rather than pick arguments with them, I mean, let's give them what they want. If that's the way they want to do it, then fine. They're the ones that keep this town going. I don't want to have battles all the time over this stuff. But yeah, I would be really interested in taking a look at this. It's another bend that we take. You know, and if that's the way people want it, then fine. Because you get some of those things. I used to buy those cottage things, and you have lovely backyards in those things. Like, they put in lots of time and money into those things. I'd be willing to take a serious look at it. Thanks.
Okay, the motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried.
Yes,
So moving on the agenda. Committee meeting dates in September. Is there a list of those? SAO?
There was just a question of if you wanted to have all 3 meetings in September, since there's no decisions that can be made. September 3rd starts the nomination period. I don't want to use the term lame duck, but that's the term. So that's the period. So it's just a wonder if you just wanted to have just the council meeting on the 20th. Sorry, I had it written down on maybe even that piece of paper I gave you, Dana. I had it written down somewhere. 17th. And if you still wanted to have both the committee meetings next month or not, was just the question.
I know we all feel over meeting, including myself, but I think there is still, just because we're a lame duck, or in, as SA pointed out, a lame duck period, there are still discussions that can be happening. We might not be able to make decisions, but we could have some very strong recommendations going forward for the next council to be able to, rather than sitting down and having to start at square one, have some recommendations of stuff that's continuation of items that of interest, i.e. potential updates to bylaws to deal with urban gardens and fire smarting and things like that. There are several issues, I think, that can still be discussed amongst council, and as we're unable to make decisions, but we could put forward recommendations that could be brought to the new council.
Any other comments about committee meeting dates? Councillor Campbell?
I agree with Councillor Couvret. We keep going as normal just because there's some good discussions yet.
Do you need a recommendation, or is just carry on? Oh, so then nothing needs, it's just,
There would have been a motion if you decided nothing.
Oh.
Committees are mandated, only the council.
okay, so nothing changes then. We'll see y'all 3 Tuesdays of September. Okay. So then the next is a recommendation for the Human Resource Committee. Assail?
Yeah, we recently had the screening for the Director of Corporate Affairs, and only the mayor showed up. Councillor Pissinger showed up 40 minutes late. We'd already gone through the screening of that. Councillor Campbell did not show up. So I just would like for this specific position to have a strong committee so we can hire. We have 2 screened in, and we're going to move forward with the interviews as soon as possible to fill that position if possible. So I just want to make sure I have a committed, strong committee. So I would like if we could just put together an interview committee as soon as possible, please.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Campbell?
I was under the impression it was on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So that's where I was gone and been informed. And I'm all for the strong committee. I think we have a strong human resource committee as is, but we just got to set our dates. And if we don't show, nobody phones, nobody even, that's where I get back to this council, nobody's talking. We got to have more communication. Thanks.
Is there anyone going to make the recommendation for the motion? Councillor Couvret?
I guess I'm at, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but do we have a particular council that we're looking at suggesting be appointed to the HR committee at this point?
I had been asked, but if someone else has interest, by all means.
That's what I mean.
Fred.
Go again. People
I just asked.
deciding amongst themselves what they want. And saying that you don't have a strong committee.
Councillor Pissinger, will you turn your mic on? Okay. Councillor Tucky? That's, Counselor Cravette, are you interested in human resources?
At this time, I've got too many things on the go to be able to find and commit the time and energies to this. Thank you.
Counselor Tucky, are you interested in the Human Resource Committee?
Well, yes and no, but I can't commit to it this time because basically I'm working full time and I've committed to do some traveling back and forth between here and all night. Then I've got too many other commitments at the moment.
All right, is someone prepared to make a recommendation?
Okay,
Okay, so how many are on there? There's what, Kevin, Ann, myself, and who? 3. Okay, you don't want another one? Okay.
So for clarification, administration is looking for council members that are going to show up to meetings. And so that's what she's looking for right now. So the recommendation would like to have put forward, if someone will make it, that I'll be a part of the Human Resource Committee.
I move that Councillor Ferguson be appointed to the Human Resources Committee.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, Councillor Cravette.
Okay, for this particular committee, I see that we'll be having 4 councillor members participating in the hiring and selection process. And more the merrier, I guess, is what people say, but I think we do need to be assured that everybody that agrees to participate on committees fulfills their commitment to participate on those when the meetings are called. And I see our next recommendation is to establish a date and time for this particular meeting. So hopefully it will go through.
Councillor Campbell.
I stepped down from the Human Resources Committee. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay. Councillor Pissinger.
Yes, since I'm also busy, I have a full-time job also. So if anyone else wants to step up like I did before, like I said before, so go ahead. I'll also step down from the Human Resource Committee.
Will you still participate in the Human Resource Committee if no one steps in? I think then that won't be an issue for about the time, because the next recommendation is to pick a time. So we'll make sure you're available for that time. We'll pick a time that you're available. All right, so the motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor? So
Yes.
5 in favor. Opposed? Councillor Campbell? Okay, motion is carried. All right, moving on the agenda then, the next item for the agenda is to now set that date for the Human Resource Committee to meet. I guess, when can everyone meet? When are you available, Anne? Well, they're down to two. I think they screened them down to two already. And so we just have to go through those two and SAO.
I would just like to pick a couple times that we can offer to the two screened-in candidates for interviews. The mayor and I went through them. The selection criteria is very clearly laid out. Do they have this education? Do they meet this specific criteria? We had 2 out of 7, 6 or 7, who fit the criteria, and so we have that short list. When you came in the other day, we did discuss that one very quickly. So what I'm looking for is just a couple options for us to propose interview times to the 2 candidates. I estimate about an hour per candidate. So we could do 2 different days, or we could try to slam them all out in one afternoon, one morning, whatever works.
Council Petitioner, do you want to just get back to maybe come see the SAO tomorrow with your schedule? I'm pretty flexible for availability.
How do you know who you choose met the criteria is the same as mine, where I think, okay, no, give them this because I think they met it. There you go again. So you got to start from the beginning again. So once any other place, a committee starts a process for hiring, they follow it through. So someone else can start if they want, go it.
Do you guys want to table this till, or do we need a motion right now? Do you have times that you want to meet? Is this,
No, I was just looking for when the availability was right now, so that we can then reach out to the candidates and try to work within the committee's availability. With both Mayor Daniels and Councillor Ferguson being fairly available, it would come down to your schedule, Councillor Kissinger, on where it would work. With 3 of us, it would work as well, but it's just a matter of, we just need to get that position filled.
Councilor Cruvette?
Being that this is a committee of an ad hoc committee, I would, well, it is a committee of mayor and council. I would suggest rather than us putting forward a motion dictating the time for the committee to meet, that the committee do that as an internal process amongst themselves.
Okay, so then we'll move on the agenda then. This is a null, nothing's going to happen with this?
So how many people do you have on the committee right now?
3. There's 3 people on the committee.
You'd be a part of the interview as well?
And the SAO. Yeah, 4. Fred and Ann.
I think if I was going for an interview, going in front of 5 people would be pretty intimidating. I think, yeah,
I think we haven't, okay. So we'll just,
that's my thought.
then there is no recommendation, there is no motion on the floor, there is nothing there, so we can just scratch this and move on the agenda to the next day. Sure, okay, there's nothing there. Okay, so next on the agenda is an in-camera session. Someone will make that recommendation.
Maybe if we could just leave that to the last one, get rid of those other 2.
This is the,
It is the last one. Okay.
I move the council move in camera in accordance with the Cities, Towns, and Villages Act, Section 23, subsection 3, paragraph I.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. In camera.